The cold retreated slowly, like tide water pulling back from a shore that hadn't felt warmth in eons. Dr. Sarah Chen's first conscious thought was of fragment mission parameters. Before the weight of her own breathing filled her awareness, the cryopod's canopy retracted with a hiss that echoed through the silent chamber, and sterile air flooded her lungs. She blinked against the dim emergency lighting. Wrong. Everything was wrong. The revival sequence should have been accompanied by the ship's AI cheerfully announcing their arrival at Kepler 442b, with the rest of the colonists awakening in synchronized waves. Instead, she heard only the low hum of backup power and the frantic beeping of warning klaxons that had been muted to preserve her awakening. "Aria," Sarah croaked, her voice rough from disuse. "Status report." The ship's artificial intelligence materialized as a soft blue hologram beside her pod. Aria's avatar wore an expression Sarah had never seen in the 7 years before cryo sleep. Something between grief and exhaustion. "Dr. Chen." Aria paused, an unnaturally human hesitation. "I must inform you that we did not reach our destination. There was a catastrophic malfunction in the navigation ray. Approximately 43 years into our journey, a microsingularity appeared along our flight path, an astronomical impossibility that the ship's sensors failed to detect until we were caught in its gravitational wake." Sarah pulled herself upright, her muscles protesting. "How long, Aria? How long have we been off course?" 3,827,000 years. Give or take a century. The number didn't register at first. It was too vast, too incomprehensible. Sarah's mind tried to process it like any other data point, but it slipped away like water through her fingers. That's impossible. The cryo systems were only rated for 500 years maximum. The singularity's exotic radiation triggered a cascade effect in the cryogenic matrix. Aria explained, her holographic form flickering. It effectively created a temporal stasis field. You weren't just frozen, Dr. Chen. You existed outside of normal time. When the singularity finally released us 6 months ago, the field collapsed, and the ship drifted into this galaxy. This galaxy. Sarah slid from the pod, her bare feet touching the cold deck. We left the Milky Way. We are in what my stellar cartography subroutines have designated as Galaxy UDFJ 39546-84. The local inhabitants call it something else, but their language is complex. Aria's avatar gestured, and a star map materialized in the air. I've been monitoring local communications for the past 6 months. Dr. Chen, this galaxy is inhabited extensively, and it is not free. The holographic map shifted, showing vast swathes of star systems connected by red lines. At the center, a symbol that resembled a clenched fist surrounded by orbital rings pulsed with an ominous light. The Zelfrian Dominion, Aria continued. They control approximately 73% of this galaxy. They are a conquest species, Dr. Chen. They absorb other civilizations, strip them of resources and culture, and integrate the survivors as slave labor. I've intercepted broadcasts propaganda, really celebrating their 2-million-year reign. Sarah steadied herself against the cryopod, her scientist's mind struggling to shift from colony mission protocols to this nightmare scenario. How many species have they conquered? At least 64 distinct civilizations that I can confirm. Some of them had cultures older than humanity's entire existence on Earth. All of them were silenced. Arya's voice held something that shouldn't have been possible for an AI anger. They call it harmonization. They erase languages, destroy art, outlaw music. They permit only efficiency, only uniformity, only obedience. A shudder ran through the ship's hull, and the emergency lighting flickered. Sarah grabbed the edge of the pod. What was that? Company, Arya said grimly. A Zelfrian scavenger vessel. They detected our power signature an hour ago. I attempted to mask it, but our systems are failing. They believe we're a derelict from one of the ancient civilizations they conquered. Dr. Chen. They're boarding us. Sarah's heart hammered. How many? Scanning shows 12 life signs. They're cutting through the cargo bay doors now. Wake the others. Emergency protocol Delta 7. I need Marcus, Yuki, and James conscious in the next 10 minutes. Dr. Chen. The cryo revival process. I know the risks. Arya, do it. And seal all corridor bulkheads between here and the cargo bay. Buy us whatever time you can. Sarah ran through the dimly lit corridors, muscle memory guiding her to the emergency locker. Her legs trembled with each step, but adrenaline was overriding 3 million years of sleep. She yanked open the weapons cabinet knot that the Prometheus Dawn had been designed for combat. Colony ships carried tools, not armaments. But humans had always been creative about repurposing equipment. She grabbed a plasma cutter and an industrial rivet gun, then sprinted toward the adjacent cryo chambers where Arya had initiated emergency revival. On 3 specific pods, Marcus Webb, the ship's chief engineer, was already sitting up when she arrived. Looking pale and disoriented. Sarah, why do I feel like I've been hit by a shuttle? Because Arya just forced you through a revival sequence, designed to take 6 hours in about 8 minutes. Can you stand? Marcus swung his legs over the pod's edge. Can I stand? Sure. Can I do it without vomiting? Less certain. He noticed the plasma cutter in her hands. Why are you armed? We have hostile boarders. Scavengers from something called the Zelfrian Dominion. The next pod opened with LT. Yuki Tanaka already alert. Her military training evident in the way she assessed the situation in seconds. Sit up. Sarah gave her the abbreviated version while helping Dr. James Okonkwo from the 3rd pod. The xenobiologist looked green, but his eyes were sharp. 3 million years, James breathed. Did we win? Did humanity make it? I don't know, Sarah admitted. Arya can't detect any signals from Earth. We're in a different galaxy, and right now, we have more immediate problems. A distant metallic screech echoed through the ship, the sound of hull plating being breached. Yuki grabbed a second plasma cutter. How many hostiles? 12. Arya sealed the corridors, but they'll cut through. Then we make our stand in the command center. Yuki said, defensive position. Force them into a bottleneck. Marcus, can you give us anything to work with? Marcus was already moving toward a wall panel. The cargo bay's automated loading system. If I can reroute power. His fingers flew across the interface. Arya, I'm going to need your help with this. Ready? Mr. Webb. Sarah and James helped Yuki drag equipment to create barriers while Marcus worked. Through the ship's internal cameras, they watched the Zelfrian boarding party moving through the cargo bay. The aliens were bipedal, but wrong in ways that made Sarah's skin crawl. Their bodies were segmented like insects, covered in dark chitinous armor that seemed to grow from their flesh rather than being worn. Each had forearms, and their heads were eyeless, featuring instead a cluster of sensory tendrils that writhed constantly, tasting the air. One of them touched a crate marked with human script Chinese characters, spelling out agricultural equipment, and made a chittering sound that Arya translated through the speaker's primitive, pre-unification era technology catalog for the Imperial Museum. The rest is scrap metal. Sarah's hands tightened on the plasma cutter. Her entire species' last hope. Their carefully preserved seeds and equipment meant to terraform a new world. Dismissed as museum curiosities and scrap, they're moving toward Corridor 7, Arya reported. They'll reach the first sealed bulkhead in 30 seconds. Marcus looked up from his console, sweat beading on his forehead. Arya and I have a surprise ready. When they breach that bulkhead, they'll get a face full of industrial coolant at negative to 100 degrees. It won't kill them, but it'll slow them down and announce that we're here and hostile. Yuki added, after that, they'll come hard and fast. Everyone ready? Sarah positioned herself behind the makeshift barrier, plasma cutter powered and humming. James crouched beside her, holding a heavy pipe wrench like a club. None of them were soldiers. They were scientists, engineers, dreamers who'd signed up to plant gardens under alien suns. Not fight wars. The sound of cutting tools reached them from the corridor. Then a hiss, a release of pressure, and suddenly screams awful. Chittering screams that barely sounded alive. Coolant deployed. Arya confirmed. 8 hostiles incapacitated. For continuing forward. Here they come, Yuki breathed. The bulkhead door exploded inward, and the Zelfrian scavengers poured through. Yuki opened fire with the plasma cutter, the superheated beam slicing through chitinous armor. Sarah added her own weapon's fire, the command center filling with the acrid smell of burning organic material. But the aliens were fast, terrifyingly fast. One leaped over their barricade, all 4 arms reaching. James swung his wrench, connecting with a sickening crunch. The creature fell, but another was right behind it. Sarah felt claws rake across her shoulder, pain exploding through her nervous system. She spun, jabbing the plasma cutter forward like a sword. The alien shrieked and retreated. Arya. Marcus shouted from his console. Emergency purge, Section 12. The floor beneath 2 of the aliens suddenly opened, and they dropped into the maintenance shaft below. The remaining Zelfrian hesitated, its sensory tendrils whipping round frantically. Yuki didn't give it time to think. Her plasma cutter found its mark, and the creature collapsed. Silence fell over the command center, broken only by their ragged breathing. Sarah pressed her hand against her bleeding shoulder, her medical training automatically assessing the wound. Deep, but not life-threatening. Arya, she gasped. The others, incapacitated or eliminated. However, Dr. Chen, I'm detecting a transmission being sent from their ship. They alerted their command before they died. Marcus slumped against his console. How long do we have? Unknown. But based on the communication protocols I intercepted, I estimate between 6 and 18 hours before a Dominion patrol vessel arrives to investigate. Sarah looked around at her crew, injured, exhausted, terrified, but alive. Then her eyes fell on the main view screen, where Arya had displayed the galactic map again. All those red lines, all those conquered worlds. Arya, she said slowly, in your 6 months of monitoring Dominion communications, have you detected any resistance movements? Any civilizations fighting back? The AI's avatar flickered with what might have been hope. Yes, fragmentary, encrypted transmissions. Nothing organized, but yes, there are those who resist. Sarah straightened, ignoring the pain in her shoulder. Then we're going to help them. The Prometheus Dawn was meant to be humanity's gift to the stars' knowledge, culture, hope for a new beginning. That mission hasn't changed. It's just gotten more complicated. James stared at her. Sarah, there are 4 of us. 4. Against a galactic empire that stood for 2 million years. For Awake right now, she corrected. We have 500 colonists in Cryo. We have the entirety of human knowledge in our databases. We have technology that, even if it's ancient by our standards, might be revolutionary here. She looked at each of them. And we have something this Dominion has spent 2 million years trying to erase the memory of what it means to be free. Yuki checked her plasma cutter's charge. I'm in. What's the plan? First, we survive the next 18 hours. Marcus, I need you to get our defensive systems online. Arya, start a deep scan of those resistance communications. I want to know who they are, where they are, and what they need. Sarah moved to the command console, her fingers dancing across controls she'd last touched when Earth still existed. In a comprehensible timeline, if the Dominion wants to catalog us as a relic of the past, let's show them what the past can do. The Prometheus Dawn hummed with renewed purpose as its skeleton crew prepared for war. Outside the viewports, stars wheeled in unfamiliar configurations, and somewhere in the darkness, an empire's gaze was turning toward them. But humanity had awakened, and humanity had always been very good at surviving the impossible. The Keepers of Dawn, Part 2. Echoes of Freedom's medical bay's synthesized skin graft itched as it bonded to Sarah's shoulder, but she ignored it, focusing instead on the holographic display floating above the examination table. Arya had compiled 6 months of intercepted communications into a coherent picture of the Zelfrian Dominion's grip on the galaxy. And what Sarah saw made her stomach turn. "Show me the resistance transmissions again," she said, waving away the medical drone that was fussing over her vital signs. The hologram shifted, displaying fragments of encrypted data. Most were desperate pleas requests for weapons, medicine, sanctuary. Others were defiant declarations, poetry written in dead languages, songs hummed on banned frequencies. One transmission stood out, repeating every 72 hours from a system Arya had designated as Quellara Prime. This one. Sarah pointed. What do we know about them? Arya's avatar materialized beside the table. The Quillari, a species of silicon-based life forms with natural bioluminescent communication. The Dominion conquered them approximately 800 years ago. Their crime was developing a philosophy of individual expression that contradicted Dominion doctrine. The Zelfrians outlawed their color speech, forced them to communicate only in Dominion standard, and put them to work in the crystalline minds of their own moons. But they're still transmitting. Marcus said from the doorway. The engineer had spent the past 12 hours reinforcing the Prometheus Dawn's hull, and was covered in tinfoil and sweat. That takes guts. It takes more than guts, Yuki added, entering behind him. It takes organization. Someone down there has maintained operational security for centuries. That's not amateur resistance, that's a professional insurgency waiting for a chance. James looked up from his workstation in the corner, where he'd been cataloging the ship's remaining resources. We're going to give them that chance, aren't we? Sarah nodded. Arya, how long until that Dominion patrol arrives? 4 hours, 17 minutes. Then we need to move fast. Marcus, status on the engines? Functional, but barely. I can give you 1 FTL jump, maybe 2 before the whole system needs a complete rebuild. We were designed for a single long-range journey, not combat maneuvering. 1 jump is all we need right now. Sarah pulled up the galactic map. Arya, plot a course to Quellara Prime. We're going to deliver a message, Dr. Chen. Arya's voice held a note of concern. The Dominion Patrol will track our FTL signature. If we jump to Quellara, we'll be leading them directly to an active resistance cell. No. Yuki interjected, a predatory smile crossing her face. We'll be leading them into an ambush. Sarah's right, we need allies, and the best way to make allies is to prove we're worth the risk. Marcus, can you rig our FTL drive to leave a false trajectory signature? Marcus scratched his beard, thinking. Maybe, if I modulate the exotic matter injectors and create a dispersal pattern. Yeah. I could make it look like we jumped to the Viridian Wastes instead. Buy us a few days before they figure out the truth. Do it, Sarah ordered. James, I need you to prepare something for our Quillari friends. Access the cultural database, specifically the resistance movements of Earth's history. Warsaw Uprising, the French Resistance, the American Revolution, the Tahrir Square protests. Everything. Compile tactical analyses, encrypted in a format their computers can read. James's eyes widened. You want to give them a handbook on revolution? I want to give them hope with a strategic foundation, Sarah corrected. Every successful resistance movement in human history followed certain principles. The Quillari have courage, let's give them the knowledge to use it effectively. The next 3 hours were a controlled chaos of preparation. Marcus worked miracles with the FTL drive, literally rewiring systems while muttering about how this would have gotten him fired back at the colonial fleet shipyards. Yuki inventory their limited weapons, creating what she called gift packages, modified mining charges, and industrial tools that could serve double duty as improvised explosives. Sarah spent the time in the Cultural Archive, a vast digital library containing the entirety of human civilization's accumulated knowledge. Music from every era, art from every culture, scientific treatises, philosophical texts, and yes, the complete history of humanity's long struggle for freedom. She found herself pausing at a recording of Bella Ciao, The Italian partisan song from Earth's Second World War. The melody was simple, haunting, defiant. On impulse, she added it to the data package for the Quillari, along with its translation and historical context. Dr. Chen, Arya interrupted gently. The Dominion Patrol has entered the system. We need to jump now. Sarah closed the archive and headed for the command center, where her small crew had assembled. Through the viewports, she could see the distant gleam of the Zelfrian patrol ship, a wedge-shaped vessel bristling with weapons at least 3 times their size. Everyone strapped in. She took the command chair, her hands moving across controls she'd practiced with during training that now felt like it had happened in a different lifetime. Marcus, engage the FTL drive on your mark. Engaging in 3, 2, 1, mark. The Prometheus Dawn shuddered, reality folding around them as the exotic matter drive punched a hole through normal space. For a moment that lasted an eternity and no time at all, Sarah felt the universe twist inside out. Then, with a jolt that rattled her teeth, they emerged into the Quillara system. The planet below was beautiful and terrible. Once, according to Arya's historical reconstruction, it had been a world of crystalline forests that caught and refracted its sun's light into cascading rainbows. Now, massive strip mining operations scarred its surface, and orbital stations hung in the sky like iron vultures. I'm detecting the resistance transmission source, Arya reported. It's coming from beneath the northern continent's largest mine, deep underground. Can we get a message to them without alerting Dominion forces? Sarah asked. I can piggyback on their own encrypted frequency, Arya confirmed. The Dominion monitors it, but hasn't broken the encryption. They know the resistance exists, but can't locate them precisely. Send this. Friends of Quillara, humanity greets you from across the stars. We bring gifts of knowledge and solidarity. Will you meet with us? They waited. Minutes stretched into an hour. Sarah began to worry they'd made a terrible mistake. Then, finally, a response came not in words, but in a burst of color-encoded data that Arya translated. They say, humanity is myth. Dead 3 million years? Prove you are real. Sarah smiled. Arya, transmit the following. The complete audio recording of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. The text of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 12 languages. And the image of the pale blue dot with Carl Sagan's speech. The response came faster this time. You are real. You are impossible. You are welcome. Over the next hour, through careful, encrypted exchanges, Sarah learned the true scope of the Quillari resistance. They called themselves the Chromatic Dawn, and they had maintained their struggle for 8 centuries. Through a combination of careful operational security and sheer stubbornness. Their leader, an ancient Quillari named Conductor Velsha, had been fighting since the first days of the conquest. We are old and tired. Velsha's message read, translated from cascading patterns of light into human script. We have kept our colors alive in the dark, but we are few. Each generation, fewer of us remember the songs of light. Soon, we will be only what the Dominion made us grey workers who do not dream. Not if we can help it, Sarah muttered. Arya, prepared to transmit the full data package James compiled. Dr. Chen, Yuki interrupted. I'm reading energy signatures in orbit. Two Dominion corvettes are changing their patrol patterns. They might have detected our entry. How long before they investigate? Maybe 6 hours. Maybe 60 minutes. Their patrol routes aren't following standard patterns. Sarah made her decision. Arya, transmit the package now. Everything tactical manuals, historical examples, technical schematics for weapons they can manufacture from mining equipment, and include our cultural archive. All of it, Sarah. That's terabytes of data. James protested. It'll take hours to transmit, and the Dominion will definitely detect it. I know. Sarah pulled up the communications console. Velcia, we're sending you the collected knowledge of human civilization. Our history, our art, our science, and our revolutions. Use it. Learn from our mistakes. Be inspired by our victories. We're also sending tactical information that can help you fight more effectively. This is a gift beyond measure, Velcia responded. But the Dominion will know. They will come for us. Let them come, Sarah replied. We're not running anymore. Humanity didn't cross 3 million years and an intergalactic void to hide. We're going to help you fight. But first, we need you to help us wake up the rest of our people. The plan was audacious and probably insane, which Yuki pointed out was humanity's specialty. The Prometheus Dawn couldn't support 500 active colonists with its damaged systems. But the Quillari mines had geothermal power to spare. If they could establish a temporary base in the Resistance's underground stronghold, they could begin waking the crew in waves, bringing online the specialists they desperately needed. There's a problem, Marcus interjected. The Dominion monitors all power usage on Quellara. A sudden spike from the mines will bring every patrol ship in the sector down on them. Then we give them something else to worry about, Yuki said, her expression hardening into what Sarah had learned to recognize as her combat face. We make ourselves the target over the next 2 hours. They coordinated with the Chromatic Dawn to execute a plan. That would have been rejected as suicidal by any military academy. The Prometheus Dawn would land on Quillara's surface, a maneuver the ship was never designed for, and establish itself as an obvious, tempting target. Meanwhile, using the chaos as cover, the Quillari would tap into their mind's power grid and help the humans begin revival operations in the caverns below. The landing was violent and ungraceful. Marcus pushed the colony ship's atmospheric engines far beyond their design specifications, and Sarah watched her knuckles turn white on the armrests. As the hull temperature climbed into the red, they came down in a box canyon near the northern mine. The ship's landing struts buckling, but holding. We're down, Marcus announced unnecessarily, as alarms shrieked across the command center. And we're never leaving Atmo again without major repairs. That's tomorrow's problem, Sarah said. Unstrapping. Arya opened communications with the Quillari. A holographic image resolved in front of them, the first visual contact with an alien species in human history. Though given that humanity might be extinct, Sarah wasn't sure if that was still meaningful. Conductor Velcia was magnificent. Their silicon-based body refracted light into a constantly shifting display of colors. That Arya translated as emotional states and linguistic content simultaneously. Despite centuries of oppression, despite the Dominion's attempts to grey them out. Velcia blazed with defiant rainbow hues. Humanity, Velcia said, their light voice filling with what the translation matrix rendered as awe. You are smaller than we imagined, and braver than we dared hope. We're terrified, Sarah admitted, but we're here. Show us to your stronghold. We have work to do. The Quillari resistance emerged from hidden passages in the canyon walls, dozens of them, then hundreds, each one glowing with colors that painted the rocks like living aurora. They approached the Prometheus dawn with reverence, reaching out to touch its hull as if verifying it was real. Sarah, Marcus, Yuki, and James descended the landing ramp to meet them. For humans standing before an army of light, your gift has already spread through our network, Velcia said, their colors pulsing with excitement. The songs you sent, we had forgotten what music could be. The words about rights, about freedom, about resistance, they are water in a desert 8 centuries dry. Then let's turn that water into a flood, Sarah replied. Take us to your power generators. We have 500 sleeping humans who are going to wake up, very angry about what's happened to this galaxy. As the Quillari led them into the depths of their world, Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced since waking, genuine hope. Above them, Dominion corvettes were converging on their position. Behind them, the Prometheus Dawn sat crippled but defiant. Ahead, in the glowing caverns beneath Quillara's surface, a revolution was beginning. And in the cryo chambers still aboard the ship, 496 humans slept, dreaming of gardens they would plant under alien suns. Soon, Sarah promised silently, they would wake. And when they did, the Zelfrian Dominion would learn what 3 million years of human evolution, determination, and sheer stubborn refusal to surrender could accomplish. The galaxy had been dark for too long. It was time for the dawn.